Fire crews battling blazes across New South Wales facing dangerous conditions tonight. An Australian to be freed in a prisoner swap in Afghanistan. And rockets from Gaza hit Israel in a flare-up of violence.
This is SBS World News with Darren Mara.
Good evening. New South Wales tonight is in the grip of a fire emergency with at least 12 homes destroyed or damaged across the state. At the peak of today's bushfire crisis, 15 fires were at emergency level. A number of firefighters have been injured and hundreds of schools were closed on a day of catastrophic fire conditions. More than 60 blazes are continuing to burn, consuming an enormous area stretching more than 1 million hectares. The state's Rural Fire Service Commissioner says tonight will bring further aggressive conditions after a catastrophic day which saw hundreds of new fires flare up.
In catastrophic conditions in the Hunter Valley, there was barely any warning as a blaze leapt from trees onto houses in the town of North Rothbury. An RFS district commander returning from fires in Lake Macquarie to help defend his own home.
Well, it's caught fire in the backyard. The next door neighbour's yard's on fire. It was impacting on the side of my house. CFI just come around the corner at the right time.
The town spared, but a row of homes left scorched.
I'm safe anyway. I hope everybody else is. That's the main thing. We can build a new house, but we can't build a new life.
Tonight, the New South Wales Rural Fire Service Commissioner outlined the monster task ahead for firefighters, with the north coast of the state still of highest concern.
They are consuming an area of more than 1 million hectares. A fire of 100,000 hectares typically has a perimeter of around 1,000 kilometres. The enormity of the task to bring these fires properly under control, to consolidate them, to get around them and mop them up is enormous. 3
properties have been lost in Hillville this afternoon south of Taree. The blaze just inland from Diamond Beach and Rainbow Flat, areas badly hit over the weekend.
No, we're at a stage now where we're going to go. It's more serious than I thought it was. My wife's in the other car and we're going to go into Tanoni, survey the situation.
Late this afternoon, residents in Sydney also on edge as a fire threatened homes at Turramurra on Sydney's upper North Shore.
I drove up to the end of our street and I looked to the right to see there was no cars, looked to the left and I saw one plume of smoke coming out of the bush.
Water bombers, which had been critical in protecting homes during the day, had to be grounded by nightfall. Tonight's forecast is for a wind change gusting up to 80 kilometres per hour, changing the direction of already dangerous fire fronts across the state. Meanwhile, police have arrested 5 people for lighting fires in the past 2 days. At this stage, the RFS says no one has been reported missing. And New South Wales has a large battle ahead as the state braces for another burst of hot conditions next week.
We simply aren't going to get the upper hand on all of these fires. So we've got a long way to go yet before we can say we're comfortable with the state of the fires and their containment and the prognosis, particularly in northern New South Wales, given the enormous size of the fires that are burning still.
Around a third of the current fires remain out of control. Virginia Langerberg, SBS World News.
We cross now to Anthony Bradstreet from the New South Wales Rural Fire Service at RFS headquarters in Sydney. Anthony, thanks very much for joining us. It's been a day of catastrophically hot, dry and windy conditions. Was it as bad as expected, and what are fire crews facing tonight?
Yeah, the weather conditions that we experienced today definitely reached those catastrophic levels across Sydney. We saw winds over 80 kilometres per hour, humidity around 5% in many areas, and temperatures in the mid to high 30s. They definitely registered in that catastrophic level. So what we've seen as a result of that is across the state over 300 fires. There are still 68 fires burning across the state, of which 38 are uncontrolled, and 9 of those remain at the emergency warning level, the highest level of alert, and a further 8 at the watch and act level. So all of those fires are burning across the northeast of the state, from the mid-north coast up to the far north coast and out through the Central Ranges and New England areas. So definitely a very challenging day for our firefighters in the field.
Yeah, so much work still ahead, Anthony. So what can we expect tomorrow? Could we see an easing in conditions and perhaps some of the most concerning fires actually brought under control?
Yeah, what we will see tomorrow, we will see the conditions back off as this southerly change moves its way across the state. That will bring some cold air mass behind it, and that will see the fire danger ratings just back off slightly tomorrow into the very high and higher categories. The challenge is, though, with so much fire across the landscape, over 1 million hectares, as we heard from our Commissioner earlier today, there is so much fire. To get these under containment, that is going to be a huge effort. There are thousands of kilometres of fire front around these fires, and it will take many days, weeks, if not months, with no rain on the forecast. This is going to be a very challenging period to get these fires under containment.
OK, Anthony, thank you for your time and for your work. Anthony Bradstreet there from RFS headquarters. Well, in Queensland, Australia's Defence Forces are preparing to assist firefighters there, also battling dozens of fires burning on multiple fronts across that state. Fire crews are bracing for worsening conditions tomorrow, with temperatures forecast to reach 36 degrees. The most severe fires are still ongoing at Yeppoon near Rockhampton and in the region of Scenic Rim.
This was the hellish sight greeting volunteer firefighters near Yeppoon. But there is no reprieve for the residents of this region. Jake Brooks has already paid a price. His farm razed by the flames when the fire was at its worst.
It didn't matter which way you looked, there was a wall of fire, you know. Flames are probably, I don't know, 100 foot at some point.
While his home is safe, he's lost $500,000 worth of equipment and thousands of pineapples destined for supermarket shelves. Yet he still believes his family will bounce back.
We'll get there. I mean, no point whinging and looking for sympathy. It's just part of it, you know. There's a lot of people in the same boat as us.
Other residents are returning to what's left of their homes. Faith Gordon escaped with just the clothes on her back.
I knew the house was gone, but I didn't think it would be so gone. Yeah.
Until you see it.
As much as it really is, you know. Like I said, you always hope for one little bit to be saved. But wow, it is well and truly really, really gone, isn't it?
Dozens of bushfires are raging across the state, the most severe at Yeppoon and the Scenic Rim. The state government calling on national support as they consider buying more aircraft to fight the flames in future.
I think we actually need more national resources, and if we have to go it alone, we'll go it alone.
The Australian Army is answering the call. Linda Reynolds and the government willing to use the full might of the nation's Defence Forces throughout this summer.
A broader response is also can include a compulsory call-out of reserves if the situation requires.
Despite wide-ranging fire bans across the state, Queensland Police now believe some of the blazes were deliberately lit, launching criminal investigations into what they say could be malicious behaviour.
So people act recklessly, or in some instances, sadly, they act criminally. So we are going to be absolutely resolute and relentless about tracking down anyone that does the wrong things.
Authorities say an end to the crisis is still far from sight.
This is a long haul. This is a marathon for us with sprints in between, and we're managing our fatigue of our people.
And with a scorching summer predicted, expect little solace for those on the front line. Naveen Razik, SBS World News.
Afghanistan has negotiated a prisoner swap with the Taliban, which will see 2 hostages freed, including Australian Professor Timothy Weeks. He's due to be released imminently, with his fellow captive American Kevin King 3 years after they were kidnapped in Kabul. Afghanistan will free 2 Taliban commanders and the leader of the Haqqani military group from prison as part of the deal. Tonight, Afghan President Ashraf Ghani said the prisoner exchange was a difficult decision made to facilitate face-to-face peace talks with the Taliban. Protests have flared across Hong Kong after a major escalation of violence yesterday that left 2 people critically injured. Clashes erupted at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, with police firing tear gas to disperse the protesters. Students built barricades around the campus in a bid to stop police entering, setting a van alight. Clashes also erupted in the central financial district as more than 1,000 protesters rallied, blocking roads. Police have warned Hong Kong has been pushed to the brink of a total breakdown.
This has affected a large number of people. These protesters who want to stop people going to work and to school and want to stop Hong Kong in its tracks are extremely selfish.
There were also major disruptions to Hong Kong's transport network today when the metro train was evacuated after someone attempted to set it on fire. 2 trains have collided in Bangladesh, killing at least 16 people and injuring dozens more. The trains collided 100 kilometres east of the capital, Dhaka. It's thought one of the drivers may have ignored a signal. Railway accidents in Bangladesh happen relatively frequently. Video shot in central Israel has captured the moment when a rocket from Gaza struck a major highway. It comes after an Israeli airstrike killed one of the most senior commanders in the Gaza Strip. Gaza's Hamas rulers have threatened to avenge the killing. Well, coming up next, calls for cool heads as arguments over climate policy heat up.
Freedom! Just lying to you! They're making us the criminals. They're locking us in.
It's our fault. We voted them in.
Years and Years. Tomorrow 9:30 on SBS and on demand. Meet 16 of Australia's most gifted children.
He's like a mini Albert Einstein.
Overseen by Mensa, they vie for the title of Child Genius.
He's always had a mind of his own.
Everyone has a mind of their own.
Yes.
An intriguing insight into the pressures they face.
When you win, not if. Ben.
As they find their place in the world.
Finally, they've found their tribe. This changes everything.
Child Genius Australia starts November 20 on SBS and on demand.
With its quality flavours, don't just make it amazing. Cascade.
So, when are you going to move?
I don't know.
Oh, come on, you can do better than where you are.
Yeah, I suppose.
Same age, same income, same starting balance. Whether Tom switched to an industry super fund 5, 10 or 15 years ago, he's been better off. Compare the pair.
Still time to move.
Past performance is not a reliable indicator of future performance.
Everybody has a great story to tell, and mine is anything but ordinary. My name's Helen, and I'm a writer, content creator, and entrepreneur. The new Surface Laptop 3 is light, elegant, and powerful, and with Instant On, it's always ready to go. You never know when inspiration is going to strike. From writing in a park to creating content on set, it's perfect for my busy life, and I just love the new metal finish. The new Surface Laptop 3 truly is anything but ordinary.
New South Wales Police don't just stick to main roads or certain times of day. Every police vehicle can carry out random breath tests, anywhere, anytime. Drink and drive? You can stop it or cop it.
You need to stop wrapping my partner up like that. It's a form of assault.
I did hear someone say that, there was a monster out there on Thursday.
And how did they report that to you?
There's a monster.
New Wellington Paranormal starts November 28 on SBS Viceland and on demand.
There's great power in difference. That's why we show the world through a different lens. Look at the bigger picture and listen to the smaller voices. Because when it comes to news and current affairs, it makes a world of difference.
We're going to get what we want by any means necessary.
Well, who doesn't want to get rich? Embrace your destiny.
Are you crazy?
For SBS News anywhere, anytime, download the app or go to sbsnews.com.au.
The Prime Minister has called on politicians and the public to tone down the debate about climate change. Scott Morrison intervening tonight after another day of vitriol and name-calling in Canberra in the wake of the bushfire emergency.
Shame on you! Shame on you!
Fireworks on the fire front.
Shame on you! Your house is not burning! My house is burning down! What are you doing? Nothing! You're laughing! You're having a circus! You're playing with fire!
Emotional evacuees confront their local MP.
Those firefighters can't die because of this.
And Anthony Albanese.
I believe climate change is real, but I don't think it's a time to be engaged in party politics.
It's not party politics, it's our reality.
There was anger too for the Prime Minister.
Our children's school is about to burn down, ScoMo. We've been asking for days for help.
I think it's important that at moments like this, everybody take it down a few notches. The last thing that people in real need and urgent crisis need at the moment is hearing politicians shout at each other.
With the capital itself bracing for bushfires.
Every fire chief around Australia will tell you this exactly the same as what I'm saying now. We are seeing a change in the Australian climate.
Its national parks closed to the public.
If we don't have people in the reserves, we've got less chance of ignition points.
The debate about climate change
now
was searing in the Senate.
You are no better than a bunch of arsonists. Borderline arsonists.
Barnaby Joyce has defended the coalition, saying he knows what's fueling fires in his electorate and it's not climate change.
What it is certain, let's call them conservation policies or green policies, that I think have exacerbated this fire.
Saying this about those who lost their lives.
And I acknowledge that the two people who died were most likely people who voted for the Green Party, so I'm not going to start attacking them.
How does he know who they voted for? And why does it matter? They're dead.
And is it now the government's position that it's not okay to talk about the climate crisis, but it is okay to talk about people who burned alive in bushfires and how they might have voted?
There's been a lot of provocative comments made over the last few days from all sides of this debate, and I find it very unhelpful.
Anger proving hard to extinguish. Brett Mason, SBS World News.
The family of a Vietnamese Australian who's been sentenced to 12 years in prison on terrorism charges says he's the subject of a sham trial. Van Cam Chow has been convicted over his membership of pro-democracy group Viet Thanh, a political movement which the Vietnamese government has branded a terrorist organisation.
He fled Vietnam by boat almost 40 years ago. Now, Van Cam Chow, a naturalised Australian, is facing the daunting reality of 12 years in a Vietnamese prison after he entered the country illegally to advocate against the communist government.
He crossed into Vietnam with a different name and a counterfeit identification document. He then recruited another suspect into the Viet Thanh anti-revolution group.
His lawyer concedes the 70-year-old retiree entered Vietnam in January using a fake ID card, but strongly refutes he engaged in any terrorist activities, saying Mr Chow was only involved in peaceful pro-democracy activism.
He committed no terrorist-related offences of violence or intimidation or coercion or demonstration, none of those. We feel that he's been sentenced by the sheer fact that he is a member of Viet Thanh. He's been made an example to pay for Viet Thanh being branded a terrorist organisation.
Back at his home in Sydney, Mr Chow's wife is distraught by the heavy sentence and hopes the federal government will more openly advocate on her husband's behalf.
I feel the Australian government probably hasn't done much for my husband. He is not well. He needs treatment for his enlarged prostate. His condition is serious.
I think the Australian government's response has been pitifully weak. The Australian government has treated this like any other consular case without bearing in mind the reality that these are political cases. Vietnam has a history of routinely prosecuting people who peacefully criticise the government.
Despite repeated appeals by the family for greater diplomatic assistance, the federal government has said little publicly as it seeks to improve relations with Vietnam. The Foreign Minister says it would be inappropriate and not in Mr Chow's best interests to comment while legal processes remain available. Mr Chow has 15 days to appeal the decision. Lynn Evelyn, SBS World News.
The Indigenous community of Yuendamu in the Northern Territory have been protesting in Alice Springs after 19-year-old Kumanjayi Walker was shot dead by a police officer. Police claim he got into an argument when he was served a warrant on Saturday before he was shot. Indigenous groups are now voicing concerns over delayed medical treatment. Health services arriving in the community by helicopter say they were delayed an hour before Northern Territory Police confirmed it was safe to land. The small West African nation of Gambia has filed a genocide case against Myanmar at the International Court of Justice in The Hague. Gambia's lawsuit accuses Myanmar of committing genocide against its Rohingya Muslim minority. More than 730,000 Rohingyas fled to neighbouring Bangladesh after a 2017 military crackdown in Myanmar's Rakhine state. Gambia, a mainly Muslim country, says the world must not ignore the plight of the Rohingya. Human rights groups and Rohingya activists have welcomed the case. Myanmar denies accusations of genocide and maintains its crackdown targeted militant separatists. Well, the leader of Britain's Brexit party has performed a massive election U-turn, announcing he won't stand candidates in Conservative-held seats. Nigel Farage says he doesn't want to split the Brexit vote and will instead target the Labor Party in a move that could help Boris Johnson win a parliamentary majority.
The man who has spent decades battling for Brexit is standing down a good number of his troops.
The Brexit Party will not contest the 317 seats the Conservatives won at the last election.
The move came after immense pressure from other Brexiteers and Conservative-leaning media. It's not a coalition with the Tories, not even a formal agreement. Essentially, Mr Farage has backed down.
This announcement today prevents a second referendum from happening, and that, to me, I think right now is the single most important thing in our country.
I'm not allowed to drink till Brexit's done, unfortunately.
For Boris Johnson, it's news to raise a glass to. It could stop the Leave vote being split in the south of England, which would have gifted seats to the anti-Brexit Liberal Democrats.
I'm glad that there is a recognition that there's only one way to get Brexit done, and that is to vote for us and to vote for the Conservatives.
But it's likely he'd prefer Mr Farage to go further. The Conservatives' whole election strategy is based around targeting Labor marginal seats in areas that backed Brexit. But the Brexit Party isn't going to stand down in those seats, denying the Tories a clean run. It means Labor still has hope in the north of England and gives them a new line of attack.
We'll take them on, and the issue is, isn't it, if you vote Farage, do you get Johnson? If you vote for Johnson, do you get Farage? I don't think that the electorate like these sort of backroom deals.
Mr Farage's about-face could prove to be a pivotal moment in the campaign, but the election hasn't been handed to Boris Johnson just yet. In London, Ben Lewis, SBS World News.
Former US President Jimmy Carter is in hospital in Atlanta. The 95-year-old is having an operation to remove pressure from his brain following a series of recent falls. He was president between 1977 and 81, making him the oldest living American leader. Since his defeat to Ronald Reagan, he has been busy with his humanitarian endeavours. Coming up next, the weather, and the Matildas dominate Chile tonight in Adelaide.
There's great power in difference, and at the moment, all around the world, it's often used to make us more and more divided. That's why we show the world through a different lens. Look at the bigger picture and listen to the smaller voices. Go deeper into the issues that are important to you. It's not about taking sides, but understanding them. It's about trust. That's why we do things a little differently. Tell stories with a difference and celebrate the wonderful differences we share. Because when it comes to news and current affairs, it makes a world of difference.
The joy of travelling the world is now on sale for 1 week only. For incredible deals on all international flights, be sure to book before midnight Sunday at Webjet.
When you've got Australia's most accurate free property price predictor from ANZ, you'll know which homes are worth your time and which ones are not. Search ANZ Buy Ready.
The Good Guys joins Click Frenzy. Hurry, 10 to 20% off across the store. 15% off this Dyson vacuum, 20% off this coffee machine, 20% off this fridge, and this washer an amazing 30% off. Stores open late Wednesday only at The Good Guys.
35, 40, 45, hard to tell. Is it her DNA or Olay? Olay's most advanced anti-aging formula helps renew, plump and reduce wrinkles. Look up to 10 years younger in 28 days.
Right now, get 7 years free scheduled servicing across the 4x4 Holden Colorado range. 7 years free scheduled servicing where you're free to go up there, free to go through that, free to tow this and this. With Holden Colorado, you got this.
What's the best thing in the barbecue? Prawn skewers.
Shish kebab.
Satay skewers.
Lamb kofta.
No way, yakitori. Aren't they all just meat on a stick?
What?
My barbecue
Goes best with a Coke.
straight out of the esky. Only with a Coke.
If you care about trains, this is your Xanadu.
Join Tony Robinson as he travels the globe.
On some of the world's steepest, fastest, greatest train routes.
To famous places.
Grand Central Station.
And some of the most remote.
This is the Outback.
Yeah. Meeting the locals along the way.
It's vibrant, exciting.
I've never had such an extraordinary time on a train.
Tony Robinson's World by Rail. Tomorrow 7:30 on SBS and on demand.
Sport, and the Matildas have dominated Chile in their friendly match tonight, but could only manage a 1-0 win in Adelaide. A delightful Sam Kerr through ball teed up Bayern Munich forward Emily Gelnick to open the scoring. Kerr should have had one of her own when she earned a penalty in the final minutes of the first half, but her shot was saved by second-choice keeper Natalia Campos. And the finance figures now. CommBank posted a better-than-expected $2.3 billion unaudited quarterly cash profit, up 5%, with shares rising 1%. Westpac fell because it went ex-dividend. Elsewhere, CSL was a drag and Nine slumped after weak advertising revenue forced it to issue a profit warning. Those losses pushed the Australian share market to a weaker close, down 0.33%. Markets in Europe rose in the early trade, and the Australian dollar has ended the day at just over 68.5 US cents. Well, Mercury has begun its passage across the face of the sun, a path it traces every few years. The tiny planet, which is slightly bigger than the moon, will take just under 6 hours to cross the sun's face. NASA and astronomists around the world are live streaming the transit, which last occurred in 2016. Mercury will next pass between the Earth and the sun in 2032. To the weather now. In the major centres, mostly cloudy in Adelaide, sunny in Brisbane and Canberra, showers in Hobart, sunny in Perth and Sydney, and cloudy in Melbourne. Looking further afield, partly cloudy in Auckland, showers for Christchurch and also Tahiti. Now to Southeast Asia, showers in Bangkok, rain in Jakarta, a few showers in Phnom Penh. Further north, sunny in Beijing, some rain in Hanoi, partly cloudy in Hong Kong, overcast in Shanghai, cloudy in Taipei, and it'll be nice and sunny in Tokyo. Heading west now, partly cloudy in Beirut, some fog for Delhi. It'll be partly cloudy in Jerusalem, also partly cloudy in Mumbai, and also cloud cover for Tehran in Iran. To Europe now, cloudy in Berlin and some rain in London. There'll be a few showers for Paris, some rain for Rome, and also a bit of drizzle in Warsaw. Now to Africa, showers in Algiers. It'll be sunny in Cairo, thunderstorms in Johannesburg, thunder also in Lagos, and a few showers very wet in Nairobi. Now across to South America, thunder in Buenos Aires, rain in Caracas, a few showers in Panama City, and drizzle in Rio de Janeiro. And lastly for tonight, North America, sunny in New York, partly cloudy in Washington DC, some fog for Los Angeles, and of course some showers in Vancouver. That's the world this Tuesday. The SBS News website has all the latest stories, and you can get news anywhere, anytime with the SBS News app. From the team, I'm Darren Mara. Good night.